Good afternoon, everybody. I am Thierry Coulon, the president of the Institut Polytechnique de Paris, a merger of the École Polytechnique with 5 other prestigious engineering schools. We train outstanding French and international talents to become engineers, researchers, innovators, leaders, able to address the huge challenges we have to face. And of course, we are, needless to say, very active in research and innovation. The subject of our roundtable is Europe and deep tech. It's clear that Europe has the potential to be one of the 3 major players in the world economy, with a strong positive impact on society. It's also clear that it struggles to play this role. And this role would go through deep tech and innovation without any doubt. Recently, there has been several reports, one from BCG, and we will have one of the authors here, one from Mario Draghi, one from Manuel Aitor. All these reports were trying to analyze the path from lab to market. And what we would try to do during this roundtable is to see how one can overcome the hurdles, whether regulatory barriers, funding gaps, whatever hurdles there are on this path. And for this, we have an outstanding panel. I would like to call first Rafael Laguna de la Vera. He is a seasoned tech pioneer. Where shall I go? Yes. With over 30 years in building successful software companies. He is the founding director of Germany's new Federal Agency for Disruptive Innovation, SPRIND. Starting in 2019, he leads SPRIND in fostering groundbreaking innovations with the potential to reshape markets. So, again. Then I would like to call Michael Brigl. He has led BCG Central Europe since 2022. With over 20 years at BCG, he previously headed the European private equity practice and remains engaged with key clients in this sector. And he will tell us about this famous report. I would like to call Monica Lessel. She is the executive director of the Bayer Foundation and senior VP at Bayer AG, where she leads corporate R&D, social innovation, and global societal engagement initiatives. She was recognized as one of the top 100 women in innovation by Handelsblatt in 2021, and she serves on many influential boards championing science and innovation for a better future. Let me call Michiel Schäfer. He is the president of the European Innovation Council, EIC. 3 decades of experience in business, academia, public policy. He has a remarkable professional experience in the field of innovation, including on breakthrough technologies, disrupting innovations, startups, impact investment, and is at the head of a very, very important tool as far as funding innovation is concerned at the European level. And finally, I would like to call Robbert Dijkgraaf. He's the former director of the Institute for Advanced Study, celebrated for a groundbreaking work in string theory, but also in communication science, in science communication, sorry. He has received numerous awards, including the Spinoza Prize, and knighthood in the Netherlands. And since 2022, he served as the Netherlands Minister of Education, Culture and Science. Now, I guess the best way to enter to lay the foundations of the debate, is to ask Michael. Michael, could you present us briefly with the conclusion of the report?
I will try briefly.
Yeah, so, and we can read it.
Of course, it's available now. So what were let's say, the three main findings of this report? I think probably everyone in this room agrees the fact that you're here is, I think, already a strong sign. I think deep tech will be crucially important for the continent going forward. And the importance obviously stems from the massive market potential that we see in deep tech, and it's starting to unfold now, and obviously we see growth picking up across multiple technologies. The potential that we see globally until 2030 through deep technologies is $10 trillion. So we're talking, this is 50% of the GDP that we will see in the European Union by the time. So massive growth potential. So this is a strategic necessity for every country and obviously for the continent going forward. The second thing is, we need to look at the strength when we look about tackling full potential, and the strength of the continent lie in our science, and that there's such a deep-rooted potential in our science. If you just look at the European countries, we have the 7 out of the 10 most active countries when it comes to creating IP, or European. When we look at our research institutes, 9 out of the 20 best global research institutes are European. So let's talk not just about the things that need to change, but let's also be aware, where does our strength and where ultimately lies our competitive advantage. And thirdly, there is a big role, obviously, how ecosystems in Europe and in the countries in Europe function, but I think there is a specific importance that comes to large companies. Large companies have the funds. They also have the strategic necessity to engage in these technologies. So we urge actually larger companies to also take their role and put deep tech at the center of their strategic growth.
Okay. Excellent. Before we ask Monica what she thinks about large companies, let us have a look about their role. Let's have a look at the funding agencies. Raphael, you are starting SPRIND in some sense. It's still recent. In France, at some point, we considered how to do something. We considered doing something with the Germans. In the end, you did something. It's a success. We would like to imitate this success. So, how do you do? And how does it fit with the European agency? What is the role of a national agency in this system?
Well, in the end, what we do needs to be done on a European level. This is why we cooperate and pull it all the way up. But you have to start somewhere.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, I don't know why Germany was the fast guy this time. It's not always the case, as some of you may know. But the gap, and that's also in the report that you can clearly see, is when it comes to creation of IP, we're pretty good. We're producing half the patents compared to the US, so we are more than eye level with them just in Germany. And if you take all of Europe, it's even more. But when you look at the creation of unicorns, companies, markets, industries that are created, we're falling far behind. So we obviously have a translation issue, not so much a science issue. Of course, you can talk about science funding and what needs to be improved. This is a big field, but let's not focus on that. So SPRIND was launched to address the translation issue for really breakthrough innovation, which involves usually deep tech, which requires a lot of money in the early phases. So you come from basic research, and now you got to go out, the science funding ends, and you have to capital expenditures of 50, 100 million, or maybe even $1 billion to just get to near market. And that's a huge funding gap that SPRIND addresses. We call it the valley of death. Unfortunately, there's another valley of death waiting for you, which is the scale-up financing. I think we've become pretty okay when it comes to earlier stage funding. So rounds up to 20 million or so, I think, are well covered. But when you build a first of a kind of anything large industrial, you need hundreds of millions, and we need facilities for that. And if you want to scale into markets and become a global business, you need hundreds of millions. And unfortunately, that money is not available in Europe. And so we sort of dropped the ball, which is really tragic. It's like, like building a rocket, and you get the first stage up and it lands smoothly like they do today, but then the second stage turns east or west and just leaves Europe. And this is what we see a lot here. SPRIND we're investing around about 220 million this year. We don't know what kind of money we have next year because we don't have a government. You may have heard of that. That's a little issue. It's not always fun to be a government agency, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting challenge, right?
Yes.
I think a lot has been done, and on a European level and a German level when it comes to raising money. And actually, France was way ahead of in the venture ecosystem.
Yes.
What BPI does is just marvelous, and all these activities. We're happy to now have a French-paid colleague, Mathilde. Mathilde, are you here? Where? There she is.
I think I heard about her.
Paid by Monsieur Macron, sitting in Leipzig.
Yes.
Our liaison manager to France, just to express how serious we are in expanding what we've learned in the past 5 years onto a European level. We need to solve the problem that's addressed here in this study. I think this is exactly what we need to do. We have to cover those two valleys of death to build the new industries here.
Okay, so that's clear. First, seed money and the first stage, and then we would like to have more venture capital to pass the second death valley. But you are a national agency, and at some point you pass the ball to EIC, do you? Michel, how do you see the role of EIC? Do you need national agencies that that are more grassroots and bring some business to you? And how do you see the possible evolution of the system?
Well, we have different lines going into the EIC. So one of them is the national line, which is very well developed in Germany, in France, in the Netherlands, in Scandinavia. So where you have a regional funding, a national funding, a sectoral funding, and then the European one. We have, if I'm very brief, we have 4 instruments. So covering the Valley of Death, we have Pathfinder to find a way. Then you start diving, we have transition to enable to establish a company. Then the accelerator, which helps to survive the worst part. And then STEP, which is a new instrument in 2025, which is up to 30 million, which basically helps to get out of the swimming pool. What we still miss is this one.
Yep.
So what we still miss, and that's also an appeal in Draghi of a more DARPA kind of approach. But what I see in the DARPA approach is we need public procurement that helps to overcome it. Yep. Not an agency that is 6 weeks faster. And what we also have is we have a number of instruments that support that. To be very brief, program management is very important in the beginning to have, let's say, communities around quantum, around energy storage that basically share each other's knowledge, compete, compare, cooperate. Then we have a second instrument we call business acceleration services, is to connect the startups with big corporations. And the third one is a new one, is a trusted investor network. SPRIND is member of it. That's basically a community of VCs and funders that we hope that will bring, let's say, the startups out of the swimming pool and basically in a growth mode. So that's what we have done. And of course, Draghi and Heitor and Letta and also your report gives a lot of homework because we are not yet there. So there's a lot of challenges ahead, especially to be more concentrated in the beginning and to have, let's say, better the growth stage organized.
Okay, so I could also speak of the first stage, namely the higher education and research institutions that feed the machine, and then we have these agencies. And I mean, a few years back, this did not exist, and it's fantastic. It's not perfect, but we are working on it together. But obviously, we won't cope with only public money. So we need companies. I mean, first, companies in the end are the ones who go to market. Monica, I mean, how do you see the way you can leverage innovation at all levels? And what do you think of the funding system that has been described so far? Is it efficient? Is it transparent enough? Is it quick enough?
Yeah, I think there are multiple ways in addressing this, but for me it's really about collaboration and about building joint ecosystems, because nobody can solve it alone. Yeah? So we need companies, but we need also EIC. So I had the pleasure of being a jury member in the EIC Accelerator program. Yeah? So that's also one way of connecting things. But yeah, of course, we also have our role to play. Yeah? And we, for example, just recently announced a new institution which we will establish in the cell and gene therapy field here in Berlin, the Institute of Cell and Gene Therapy, together with the Charité. And it's exactly also around the translational aspect, because cell and gene therapy, as you know, it's quite a new methodology. It's quite challenging, and especially then the production, which you need special facilities, GMP, where of course we can help also as an organization. So we will establish a joint institutions and provide the space for GMP, so that the startups can then also scale faster and have the respective support. This is just one example, but I think it's really this partnering which is so important to advance these new technologies, which are I fully agree, it's a full revolution. Also, if we look on drug discovery, I mean and we just need to look on the Nobel Prize that has been awarded this year for protein research, the new programs, AlphaFold, and then also de novo protein design. It will revolutionize the way how we do drug discovery. So it is urgently needed, this partnership. And I think we have to work on multiple ways, but most importantly, not in silos. Yeah, so it's about bringing the ecosystem and the collaboration together. Yeah.
Okay, it's very good to hear, because a few years back, again, especially in France, the funding of innovation consisted in giving money to large groups, and they did not interact with startups. What you are saying is the contrary, is that big companies do need startups, and
Absolutely.
that we have to build an ecosystem. So how efficient can it be? How can we foster all this? That's the question. Robbert, you have a double position. You are an outstanding scientist, and you have worked in government, so you know the game. So from a national point of view, how can countries first play their own role, build their own system, and then participate in the joint game? How do you see that?
Well, it's wonderful to be part of the discussion, because I think we have all the reports, we have our diagnosis. Now the question is, of course, what is the therapy? And indeed, if you ask from the national perspective, then I think the biggest lesson is to not think nationally. The two words that really spoke to me and all the reports are scale and alignment. So first, scale. I think you see that real productivity growth is only in those sectors that scale up easily. We have to think in terms of the continent at least. Mm. Of course, we have all the geopolitical forces to make us think in this way. And particularly in Europe, I think we have freedom of exchange of people and goods and services, but we do not have an exchange of policies. And there, I think, comes the second element, alignment. I think too often in Europe, the whole is less than the sum of the parts, almost in any area. And I think what we need is basically two things. We need indeed a common strategy. I think that's the alignment part. But the second element is then belief in distribution of labor. That is that everybody picks the role that they're really good at. So you stop doubling initiatives. You have a notion of trust where you grant others their success. And one thing that I think is also mentioned in the Draghi report that spoke to me is that we should have a research and innovation union. That is to say, right now we have in Europe 27 policies, and we have a 28th from the European Commission. Ideally, we would sit together and align our innovation policies and I think then you get actually the real force that Europe has. And it's rightly said, we should be extremely proud about our education system, about our scientists, about the wonderful distribution of our universities, research institutes. That's a great natural resource, but we are simply not connecting the dots. And I think I notice as a minister, I often joke, you suffer the N=1 phenomena because there's only one copy of your country, and you feel that your system is totally unique. And certainly the Netherlands has certain things to contribute. I think we have a culture where we easily collaborate, etc. But I think also, we can learn from each other. And I would love if in Europe we also sit around the table and decide what our common policies are in order to move ahead.
Okay, Excellent. Indeed, here again, the world has changed. I mean, in the French system, you could totally ignore or know little about European mechanisms a few years back. I mean, I perfectly remember that it's Jean-Pierre Bourguignon who told me about, I mean, guy, look, you should understand this. And now things have changed. Indeed, I mean, this morning we were with the French minister in a Franco-German meeting about artificial intelligence, and so there are connections, one-to-one connections, multilateral connections that have to be established. That's clear. Another question we could ask, I don't know whether one or the other you do have thoughts about that, is how should we decide about priorities? Should we say, well, there is AI, there is quantum, there is biotech, and have a few priorities, or should we mix this with a bottom-up approach? I mean, probably a mixture of the two strategies is needed, but I know that in your roles you all think of this issue. Michael.
Yeah, I think I was smiling when Robbert said before that we need to align, and then I was thinking on the work that we did on the German innovation system in a way that we not even aligned in Germany. Like when I look at Germany and the federal states, right? We have 129 innovation clusters in Germany, right? Where there might be some areas where we double tasks and where we have similar approaches. So I think, first of all, I guess there is a need for a national alignment first and a national focus. But on the same way, I think we need also European alignment and the European focus. And I think probably the right thing to start would be there will be 2 or 3 technologies where we know ex ante that standalone you will have no chance to be competitive. I mean, take space, for example. Yep. And there will be 2 or 3 others where you would say, it does make sense that you need to start on a European level, while others, I guess, I'd like take AI or take many of the biotech topics that probably will also stay on a more national level. So I think, as you say, I think we need to agree on. I would actually start with maybe 3 or maximum a handful on a European level, but then there is a lot of alignment. Focus on the national level still necessary, because it's not like that we've mastered prioritization and true governance, right, on a national level. So I think some European countries, I think for me the sign is always if you have a functioning innovation agency in a country, that's a sign of that at least you have a governance in place that can prioritize and also monitor how you progress and how does your return on investment work. But not every European country has a well-functioning innovation agency yet. Okay,
it's funny to listen to you because you know, in France, we tend to think that we are the complicated guys, right? And that even when we try to simplify, we simplify in a complicated way. But it's fun to see that. Also, we thought that I thought that we were in a very fragile political situation. After all, well, you know, well, it's good. Robbert, Mike.
Can I add to the alignment? Because I think alignment doesn't mean that we all do the same. I think it comes with smart specialization. Yep. So you can decide to go, see that Europe wants to invest in biotech, but then every country will have its, and perhaps each region will have its special strength. And it's also okay if you do not join as a region or a country or an institution in one particular priorities. I think in the end we want this kind of this map to fill out, right? And so I often think of these geological maps where you see in various colors. Perhaps the biotech map or the IA map will look very different. And I think it's that combination that you need. And by the way, there are certain areas where I think we do not have to align. You can, as you said, fundamental research works very well in a bottom-up, very broad portfolio. And I would hate to see that philosophy will be applied there. Often I think is where we have this very messy middle ground, which is neither strategic, not really open-minded, and I think we should get rid of that.
Yeah, But it may be very difficult to have a smart specialization and to share the roles. I mean, when I arrived in the staff of President Macron, I did not know much about space. But then I had to tackle the space issues, and I realized what nightmare it was. I mean, the geographical return, all the jazz. Monica.
Yeah, I think what you also mentioned, Michael, I think on one hand it's good if you have set some priorities, but on the other hand I would also be cautious to orchestrate it too much, because it's now, I mean, what we see is the convergence of different sciences. Yeah, I mean, if I speak about biology, it's biology and robotics, and it's biology and AI and so on, and it's exactly no longer the different disciplines, and this is what we have to think about. So I'm also very much on one hand on a bottom-up approach, but then also how can we support these clusters which already might be there in a more efficient way. Yeah? And I have been also a jury member of the German government has a cluster competition where they over years really certain clusters can get several millions, up to 20 million. So it's really very substantial funding. And honestly, I think this would be great to have it more on the European basis, because it's wonderful, but it's and then sometimes we had really more artificial discussions. Where is someone joining? Is it still from Germany or not? And I think science doesn't know, is not aware of any borders, and I would rather do these kind of things on a European level. Yeah, but there are, I think, sometimes naturally occurring, of course, clusters, and can we support them and then further develop and grow them and bring together all the different players, be it startups, science, and of course also industry. Yeah.
Yes. What you said in the beginning, that interesting things are now at the interfaces of disciplines. It does have an effect on higher education institutions. I mean, if at Institut Polytechnique Paris there is math, obviously there is physics, biology, and so on and so forth. But the way we try to structure ourselves is rather by considering the societal challenges, the big challenges. I mean, and we have interdisciplinary centers, AI, climate, obviously defense and security, since we have military schools, and engineering for health, and so on and so forth. So this has a consequence to the very structure of the education and research system. Michel, what do you think about this story of priorities and your daily work?
Since we are the venture capital branch of, let's say, a big public organization, we have a number of policy objectives, and Draghi is quite sharp in them, but if I remember them, we have 3 strategic issues. We are depending on important energy, so we have to do an energy transition. We are depending on important materials, so we have to make a material transition, and the only resource we have is agriculture, so we have to transfer agriculture from only food to also material source. And we have to do a transition in proteins, because we need the fields to cultivate materials and not to have cows. So we have 3 big challenges in Europe, and we have only 30 years to achieve them. In energy, we're quite okay. In materials, we're nowhere. And in proteins, there's a lot of resistance to replace a steak by something else. But the challenges are known. So there is an opportunity of making a long-term roadmap. The second thing is indeed to be selective in what we do. As a regional minister, I reduced the province's priorities from 5 to 3, but I went recently to a country smaller than my province, which had 9 priority sectors for 2 million people. That's not realistic. So what is important, and I don't know who is going to do that, is we need to have a frank exercise, country by country, region by region, and also in networks, what are the strengths? And sometimes there's a regional logic, but this morning we had a session on quantum. Quantum is already a European system. There's no use of talking about München against Copenhagen. No, they know each other. So we have to move to also, that's something I think we do quite well. It can always be better, but creating these European networks with their thematic, and they're mostly here in the room as well, so to create that European level. That's also, let's say, a sociological change to do. And another one, just to be brief, I think it was Vestager who said me on my first day, Mr. Scheffer, you have to give us a new industry.
No pressure.
Because the old one doesn't deliver. That is not true. That is not true, but what you said is important. We have to connect the startup system to the big corporations in a curiosity-driven, let's say, manner.
Okay, excellent. You have, on the one hand, you're optimistic, but on the other hand, you have a very lucid view of the system. Raphael, I mean, you don't have as many cheeses as we do in France, but Michael said that you do have a complicated system. So how, I mean, between the national and the regional level, I mean, how does it work in terms of priorities? The questions Michel alluded to.
I'm not sure you're right about France being more complicated than Germany, but then I don't know France enough. We do have enough problems
Come
to
and
tackle.
visit, my friend.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to. Sometimes you're more top down and you can just do things, whereas we are talking and talking. It took us at SPRIND with the Parliament 4 years to create a law that allows us to operate the way we should have done from the very beginning. So that's not fast, that's not easy, but now we have it. It's even called SPRIND Freiheitsgesetz, SPRIND Liberty Law, isn't that great? So we have to make a law to liberate ourselves from laws that block the way we work. Brilliant. But we got it now, so we can work differently. I think what we've done is you have to explore what's out there. So bottom up is very, very important. And we have long discussions in our board meetings. Shouldn't we focus on sectors and so forth? We said, no, we shouldn't, because we don't know what's out there. I mean, all these innovations usually happen on the touching points of technologies, of fields that intersect. I mean, you've seen that with the Nobel Prizes, quite surprisingly, but no, not surprisingly when you think about it. So let's have that creativity happen. 2, what's also surprising in a long discussion is that we finance projects all over Europe. We're not limited to Germany. Because why? Because they solve the big questions of our time. And our people in Germany and everybody else will be much happier and much healthier and so forth if we solve these problems. So why not work with people in Copenhagen, in Madrid, and even in Israel and Switzerland? We don't care. We want to solve the problem. Of course, there is a regionality because we're a German agency and people may not know us so much and so forth, but it's a proof that you can create this and go out there. And then you see, once you have all this data and you see the projects coming in, you see clusters, you see topics that have attention. We're trying to look through hypes, so we're very careful with quantum computing. We like quantum sensors, but quantum computing, there was a lot of funding out there, a big hype, so we said that doesn't require SPRIND, our money won't make a difference. But then you look at the sector more broadly and you see quantum sensors. Same with AI, building another large language model. Why should we? We cannot follow OpenAI, we will never catch up. But then you look and you see, oh wow, we got new computing architectures. We have like 5 different architectures, analog, neuromorphic, in-memory computing with resistors, capacitors, even analog computer revival, which is great because they have all these knobs. It looks fantastic. But they will build completely new ways of computing, and not only for AI, but for AI, which will leapfrog what we do now, because we're now crazy. We're buying all these chips that create heat out of energy and do some compute, and you need your own utility to run these things. So, okay, that's a cluster. Let's make a challenge. So we can go bottom up and finance individual projects that are great. When we see clusters, we go top down and say, okay, solve this problem. By any means, we don't care. Like broadband antivirals, we found that in Germany there's a great ecosystem for life sciences, great institutes like Charité and many others, great industry like Bayer and many others. So why not do this challenge? We make the call, it takes 6 weeks, you get 50 applications, you select 10 teams from a jury, 3 months, 1 month after they've sent their application, they have their first money. And not just 1 team, but 10. Let them do their thing and let them compete and co-opt at the same time. We do challenge days where the teams pitch in front of each other. And then you reduce them down, give less teams more money that are really successful and go on. And there's no requirement for checking how they spend the money because you see the results. And this challenge was just ended and we were, because it's a challenge, we thought we need to select a winning team, but it was 4 winning teams because they had 4 different ways of addressing broadband antivirals. And so we've done 9 of those. You do the due diligence in the course, you keep the competition up, and that's top down in a very agile way. I think we should do both, and we will see the clusters. They will appear, and then we shouldn't think about borders. We shouldn't care. We're solving huge issues that we need to solve, and the pressures on those issues have just increased in the past couple of days, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting what you say, that we have to find new ways to to articulate cooperation and competition, and that's what science is about in some sense. So we had a very interesting discussion. We are going to move towards a Q&A session, so please prepare your question. But just before, you mentioned AI and you mentioned clusters. So if I can have a 1 minute advertisement page, you know that in France next February there will be the AI Action Summit at the level of chiefs of state. The 10th of February, there will be a more open session where academia, companies, politicians, everybody will be welcome. And just before, on the 6th and 7th, we are in charge at IP Paris to organize two scientific days about AI and society. And this will be very open, and you are all welcome. So now, time for questions. I see 2 over there, 3. So please, and if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, Sabine Kaiser from RWTH Aachen, so close to the Netherlands. I have a question to you, Robbert. I think you're a very rare example of a renowned scientist going into government, daring to become a minister. I know some of your fellow research colleagues thought that was maybe a very ambitious thing to do, or crazy, or whatever. So do you feel you have been able to really make a difference with the specific background? Would we be better off in Europe if you had more renowned scientists leaving their nice, cozy research field where they've been very successful and venturing into this adventure of politics?
I know when I was announced that I was a minister, there was a cartoon in the newspaper where he saw me climbing down from a little ivory tower into a big black hole called politics. And one thing I've known that government is not a big black hole. It actually has its own inner workings. It is a logical system. It's a different kind of logic than scientific research. And I think understanding that world is helpful on both sides. And I think we need more people, and I think actually it's more like a triangle where business has its own working, and I think if we have a culture where it's more common to, so to say, migrate between those different worlds, I think it would help us a lot. Because I often notice that from my scientist colleagues have very firm ideas what should be done, but are not aware, of political realities. For instance, the notion of time. So in politics, it very much matters when you ask for something. The door could be open, it could be closed the next day. So having more understanding on both sides, I think, is a great thing. And I hope actually that a lot of young people in science feel that they can spend some time in government or in business, and it's not a black hole. You can escape. Actually, that shows my scientific research out. You can escape from a black hole, but be totally scrambled.
He should have stayed 2 years longer at least.
Well,
and yes, you can make a difference. I think, and nobody who ever stepped into politics can come with the excuse that you cannot make a difference.
Yeah, one can do math after government, but not too long. Next question, please.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm the founder of Marvelous. We are a climate deep tech fund investing in the underfunded sectors, like you mentioned, not energy, not mobility. And in the discussion you mentioned, basically, from my point of view, 2 answers to tackle the ecological crises. So one thing is money, the other thing is collaboration. And now someone from Bayer is sitting here, but 95% of our economy is based on SMEs in Europe. So my question is basically, how can we get more SMEs into the collaboration with startups, with the startup ecosystem? And the second question, sorry for that, is how get we more money from the private sector, so from family-owned businesses, into venture capital? Because venture capital is something what we need.
Okay.
Thank you.
Michel and Monica, I guess.
Well, I think it's not worthwhile to make a discussion on big companies or SMEs. necessary. So when I travel from where I live in the east of the Netherlands to Milano, you see this dense network of manufacturing companies, and they are essential in making the stuff that the startups imagine. And the big companies are essential in being launching customers. One of the success formulas of the EIC is that we are able to attract €4 of private funding for each euro of public money. It's the best public investment ever done. So we hope that the next Commission recognizes that. So organizing this multiplier is important. And one of the things that struck me in the Macron speech of April is Europe shifts every year 600 billion of savings to the US. So instead of investing in Europe, everyone here, especially those 60 years and older, basically invest directly or indirectly the money in the US. So why we should fund our own economy? So one of my challenges as an ESC is to how can we increase the multiplier? And that's why we created a Trust and Investment Network. That's why I'm reaching out to the pension funds in Netherlands, to the insurers in France, to basically get that movement going on. And that movement is starting. So there is a shift now going on, but we have to go on with doing that.
Monica, what do you think from the private sector point of view?
Yeah, I think I can also, I mean, on one hand, I fully agree. I think it needs both small SMEs and big corporates. And I'm also on the board of a very successful SME. And I think what we can also see is the risk aversion here in terms of the investment. Yeah? And once it's about the scaling, then we can also see then we have more investors from the US. And this is exactly your point, Michel. I think it's about how can we ensure that there is enough investment in the promising startup ecosystem or SMEs that we have here also in Europe. So.
Okay. Robert, you want to make a point?
No. I think it's the point of the small companies. I think is very good. And again, I think if you look at very successful innovation hubs, I think the Netherlands is a good example with ASML. And if you then actually pull it out, there is a whole fabric of smaller companies actually across the country and far beyond that are basically the root system of this very big tree.
Okay. That was the gentleman here.
Tim Hubbard, director of Elixir, which is the pan-European infrastructure for biological data. So in terms of collaboration, people didn't talk about the idea of a sort of a non-competitive band between organizations where you can compete at some level but you can share particularly data at some level. Now, the European Union, the digital economy, a digital transformation part, has this idea of data spaces. And one particular one that's gone through the Parliament is the European Health Data Space, which my organization is a bit mixed up in. So I don't know how you think that's going to impact. Will it work? Will it provide a driver, particularly for AI? You've got a load of countries that don't want to move data across boundaries, but federated data spaces probably are now technically possible. We've been doing this. Do you think it's going to have a necessary impact?
Yeah, well, of course, it's a major issue, and I know that in France at some point we tried to push the hospitals to share their data, and we have a data health center. It's quite hard, but maybe I don't know, Michael. Do you have some in your report? You treat the issue of sharing data and.
I think we don't go deep on the data sharing topic. We look more on the IP and how we get the IP out of the universities into scaling and in companies. But I think on the data side, I think it would be Raphael. It would be interesting. I mean, probably on your side, right? In a way where you have the agencies in the country. I think there could be something where you actually have some sharing and some comparing. I find it difficult you can't put this even on top on the companies, right? I think the companies need to try to survive. They need to try to find their own competitive advantage. So I think there should not be an additional burden in order to make these companies survive. But I think there could be another lever in the ecosystem, and that could be on the agency side, because most countries have these agencies. I think where obviously data sits and where you have actually transparency about multiple assets.
Yes, this health data issue is one example where we were happy in France to have a centralized state. We are not always that happy, but in that case, one thinks that centralization can help. But what do you think, Raphael?
And we're trying that in Germany now too with the EPA. I'm not sure this will work, to be honest. And I'm not sure I mean, we did Gaia X, and now we're doing sort of the next level. I'm not sure any of that has worked very well. I think people sort of realize the value of their data, and now they become a little more reluctant to share it. Then we have the data laws, GDPR, that make it difficult to share data across boundaries. Now we have big AI models that just suck the data out of the world and train no matter what, and they don't care about copyrights, and then they clean the place up. That's sort of the competition. It's an interesting place. I think one way to solve this is actually technology. We will be launching a challenge, a composite learning challenge, we call it, where you can distribute the learning loads across machines and across data pools. Meaning you can train a central model without moving the data at all. It has more advantages because you can distribute loads across multiple systems. You can offload to sensors and cars and what have you. But this one would address the data ownership issue because the data never leaves. But in the end, you have a model that's trained. And quite frankly, I can't see many other approaches that have a good chance of actually now finally working, that we can access these data treasures that they're out there. I mean, I'm an open source person, so you can imagine it would be easy to say, oh, let's just do open data, right? But just talking about scientific papers and open access and blah, 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 and you see how that all goes. It's super difficult. There's this whole copyright issue for AI models, which should break their necks, but they're just ignoring it, okay. But otherwise we wouldn't have the AI models. Yep. So we need to find sort of these federated, composite approaches to address all these issues and keep the ownership to where it sits and still provide the benefits of what AI can do.
Yes, we are running into money time, so you know that we have to finish, but quickly, Monica and Robert, and then...
Just pre-competitive research, I just want to mention, I mean, other aspects that is very important to address in a pre-competitive manner is also all the regulatory framework, yeah? Because if we have different regulatory framework in different countries, it gets also very challenging. So I think that's something where everybody should also come together in a pre-competitive manner to address this.
Indeed.
Yeah, so
it's a level playing field.
Exactly.
I think about the competitive edge of Europe. I mean, if healthcare data will grow faster than anything else, and have that as an application of AI that's kind of well protected and at the surface of our citizens, and could also be very good business. So I think we also have to see where do we want to play AI, and I think the value of these data will only increase in time.
That's clear. Okay, so we are running into the final stage of this roundtable, and you know the name of the game. What is the next step we have to take to break down the wall to what? To ensure Europe's deep tech innovations become more competitive on the global stage and that they have positively measurable impact on societies. So in one word, Robert.
As I said, break down the walls between our innovation policies.
Okay, clear. Michel?
It's a variety of it, as we have now a number of instruments. If you run through all of them, you need 16 years from the basic idea to something commercial. So my challenge for next year is how can we invent funding mechanism that basically you go in 6 years from tier 1 to tier 8.
Yeah, sure.
So I hope that Maria Leptin is still around, because I think that together we should invent something for doing such a thing.
Probably, yeah. Monica?
Yeah, break down the walls between academia, industry, big, small industry, politics, and have more boundary spanners, exactly people who have worked in both systems or in all the systems. Yeah.
Music to my ears. Michel?
Break down the wall of complexity. I think it's the easiest thing to reduce bureaucracy. Doesn't cost anything to take away existing regulations and laws, and double the speed. It's all about speed.
Yeah, at some point I was running an evaluation agency, and I was about simplify. Well, that's a nightmare to simplify. That's so hard.
It's the second law of thermodynamics that's working against you.
Yeah, Raphael.
There's actually research that says it's impossible to simplify a system from within the system.
Well, that's why international discussion, European discussion is interesting.
Yeah,
so
Maybe since many have been said, maybe let me add to the funding side. I think we have walls between the funding silos or investment silos. We mentioned the 600 billion. There's another, just in Germany, 4 trillion euros sitting in pension funds that are not invested in anything tech or VC. So if we break down these walls and make it available to the investment vehicles and VCs that we've got, boy, this would be fun.
Excellent point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.